Very good. Well, just to let everybody know, Chris Cooper had a family emergency, and so he is not going to be joining us. So I'll be the coach, and Kitty's going to lead us through the agenda. And she had something to start with that she looked into in the interim from last meeting. So
Well,
we
we'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you for taking your time out of the day to join us. And like Jennifer said, Chris won't be with us today. I thought Bob was going to join us.
I know he was driving part of the day, so I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll start without him anyway. If he joins us, he can jump in. I hope everybody had a chance to watch the Zoom meeting with the State Board of Election with Karen Brinson Bell. I think it was very informative, but I think one of the most alarming things that was said during that Zoom meeting was in the last, I think it was 5.5 years, we've lost in the state of North Carolina 58 directors. And Sarah, don't ever leave. That is really alarming to think that we got so many new directors. I think the director in Currituck maybe had worked 2 weeks when she had the primary. So we've got to do something to try to keep the directors there. We're losing a lot of experience with these directors leaving. Also, we got coming up on Monday, the 29th, I think it was sent around to everybody, the specialist Tom Baker from Princeton University. I think everybody got that Zoom invitation. At our March meeting, we had talked about how other states did different things, we just wondered how it correlated with North Carolina. So I did reach out to a friend of mine in Michigan who was the former training and commission manager at the Michigan Secretary of State Bureau of Elections. And now she's head of customer service with Voting Works, which is a nonprofit election technology company. And she reached out to a friend of hers who worked in Kansas City, who was the election commissioner at Sedgwick County, which is the second largest county in Kansas. And she had served on the federal legislative committee and the postal task force. And she was let go because of working from home. Excuse me, I'm sorry. She was let go. It was probably just an excuse to get rid of her. After 9 years, she was fired because she did some IT work from her home. But both of these ladies filled out a questionnaire that was just simple questions. I asked, does your state have nonpartisan primaries? And in Michigan, they do not. And in Kansas, they do have partisan elections for their county and for the state. But the municipalities, they don't. Does your state have many not unaffiliated voters? And in Michigan, they don't have to worry about it because they don't register with the party. So it makes it easier for them. Everybody's just a registered voter. And in Kansas, yes, they have a big unaffiliated voter list. Does someone get their name on the ballot if they're not unaffiliated with the party? And in Michigan, the petition process is how they get their names on the ballot. And it's double the signatures for a partisan candidate, but it also skips them right on to the general election. And in Kansas, they have a partisan petition that they have to file to get on the general election. And do candidates have to live in the district they represent? And Michigan, it depends on the office and sometimes varies on when. Example, if the office requires a time of filing and others are elected, and it is the same throughout the state. And in Kansas, it said in their water districts, you can be elected to the water district. You just have to own property there. So you don't even have to live in the district for just the water district in Kansas, which I thought was kind of interesting. Are the voting methods throughout the same through the out are the voting methods throughout the state the same? And in Michigan, yes, they are, but they're different equipment. But all the requirements are all the same throughout Michigan. And in Kansas, the state lets the county make their own decisions on the hours and locations, but most everything else is controlled by the state. And then I asked about the census, how it's conducted. And in Michigan, they have a citizen redistricting commission for state and federal offices. And the local authorities do the local boundaries. And in Kansas, each legislative board for the district type adjusts their boundaries with the local election official having control of the precincts. So there is some similarities, but and there are a lot of differences. And when you think about the different, you always hear about election reform and everything should be the same to make it easier for voters. But when you see each state has something different, and here in our state, we have so many different ways of doing things. So having uniformity, I think, is never going to happen, but that's just my thoughts. Does anybody have any comments or questions? I know the lady that answered the questions from Kansas, like I say, she had worked for 9 years as election commission for her county. And she had said she had always, and I felt the same way as a director, when you had these groups coming in wanting information and wanting to look at everything, you had a negative feel towards them. But she said now that she's gotten out of elections and moved into the voter end of it, voting machine end of it, that she sees that when you have advocacy groups who are interested in elections, that seems to make things go a little bit smoother, and it makes you stay on your toes a little bit better. So it does give you something to think about, I think. And I think the next thing we were going to discuss the filing fees. We've got to get our final report. It's going to be done by June the 10th, which will be here before we know it.
Actually, end of June.
End of June. Okay, I was reading the 10th. It says the 30th. Thank you.
No worries.
How do we want to do this? Do we want to discuss it here and then divide or decide who's going to do what? Any suggestions? I've already decided Andy will be great on writing a report about redistricting since he did such a good job last time. You have any thoughts on it, Jennifer?
Well, I think what the committee needs to decide is what are the salient topics that people think about, that are concerned about when it comes to candidate filing. You all have talked about a number of them. Uniformity of filing requirements, the whole unaffiliated question. There was a candidate information guide that was brought up at one point. Obviously, redistricting, having lived in the district, who draws a district, all that. There's a whole bunch in there. And then the fees, those were kind of the main areas. What you need to decide is, well, first of all, how is it done now? And, a summary of that. And then what research or information did you get on other best practices for doing it. Clearly the research on redistricting that Andy did would be a great addendum to the report. And then findings. And one thing that we want to make sure is that they don't have to be recommendations. Your finding may be, we think that all of these areas in North Carolina are handled, pretty well. And our finding is that people should trust the system the way it is, right? That could be your finding. So yeah, so you're gonna need to, as a group, think about each of those topics. Maybe, different people write the different segments on each topic. It does not have to be long, you could have 2 paragraphs on filing fees, right? It doesn't have to be long, but what I think that some discussion will need to happen is, what do you want to take a stand on in terms of, if anything, that you think could be improved? And if you, again, think from the information you've gathered and what you've seen, et cetera, that it's good to have different requirements because every county is different, and that's okay, just the way it is, and people should trust that because each county is very careful in deciding that. And then, just so the topics listed in the agenda were just a few that I had heard. I may have missed something, but I think it would be a good idea to figure out what those topics are you want to include in the report, and then how you're going to flesh out your findings on that.
I know at one time Sarah had mentioned about doing a survey monkey to candidates. Is that something that we might want to reach out to the state for, and then maybe a couple of counties to see if we could get a list? I wonder if we'd have to have approval from the state board to do something like that. I wouldn't think so, but
I wouldn't think so. I know the state publishes contact information for all of the candidates statewide. It's an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, it can be pretty readily downloaded if that was something we wanted to do.
Maybe to reach out to the candidates. Did they think the filing fee was fair? I know we had said in the past at some of the meetings that maybe high filing fees would keep certain people from filing for office, but you don't want 50 million people to pay $10 to be on the ballot as a presidential candidate or something like that. Is that something the committee would be interested in doing, or do you think we might not have enough time to do a survey to, and maybe not all the candidates, but certainly majority of the statewide candidates?
If someone on the committee has time to do a short survey and get that Excel sheet and send it out, I mean, you might get 20% to respond. Campaigns get, email inquiries all the time about their platforms, et cetera. So if you make it short and pretty easy to fill out, you might get some response. It'd be great to have something like that as, research that backs up what your finding is going to be. But someone would need to volunteer to do that.
So what would we want to narrow in on finding out about, like filing fees specifically? Or I was reading back through the notes from the last meeting, and we talked also about, a very clear guide for candidates about the things that they have to do and follow. When you went into this, was there something you wish had been explained in a clear way to you about the rules for, running your campaign or campaign finance or electioneering or any of that sort of stuff? And I'm sure there's so much more to being a candidate than just, that part. There's also the side about, getting information about potential voters and how do you reach them and things like that, that I would have no expertise in.
I think it's, you can leave an open-ended last question, if you have 5 questions, the last one is, what could be improved in the process for filing as a candidate, right? kind of make that open-ended, might get some interesting suggestions. But if you just focus on, cost, information, district requirements, you could have like 4 questions and then the open-ended one. I think that you might, get a lot of answers. I don't know. Andy, you've probably done this
Yeah.
before.
Well, I've done it before, but I haven't used SurveyMonkey, and I'm just clicking on SurveyMonkey. Yeah, most of the candidates do have email. I just looked at the candidate list spreadsheet that they have at the State Board of Elections, so it's public information. I don't think we have to ask permission for that. So that part is doable. What I don't know is, I mean, if you can do it for free, and I don't know what kind of budget, if any budget we have for this.
Well, the other technical way you can do it is a Google form.
Yeah.
Do a Microsoft Google
Mhm.
form. Yeah, and just have like you do an evaluation. Those are pretty easy. They tabulate it, they give you a graph of what the answers look like. That's not that hard either.
Okay, well, that'd be another way to do it. So on the candidate side, that's easy. I mean, enough. You just got to get somebody to put all that stuff in a list. I mean, that is not an area I've done either, but it's something. There's probably a YouTube video on it, so it's probably pretty doable to just flip stuff off and just basically cut and paste onto a mass email and blind carbon copy, 800 people or whatnot.
Yeah, I don't mind putting together a survey. I'm not going to promise I would have time to analyze all of the responses after they come in, just because I am moving into facilitating an election. But you can share those findings. Like I could share a link with everybody on this committee to see the results as they come in. Or, once we turn off the survey, you can, export that and we could all have access to it. But I don't mind sending an email with a questionnaire. I just don't want to commit to the follow through on the back end because I may not have the capacity.
Well, now, Jennifer, didn't you say that some of the surveys will do that for you?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen and show you a survey that I did. These things are so easy, and Andy, I think you'll really love learning how to do this. Because it collates, what the responses were, gives you a nice pie chart of very knowledgeable, somewhat knowledgeable, all these things. I just asked a few questions, and then you can go into the specific responses and see, what people actually said, and this is their email, and you can actually see, if they give an open-ended answer, you can see those as well. So you don't have to do any work to collate or analyze. The form does it for you, which is brilliant.
Now, is there a cost to use that or not?
All free. Free.
Is that just a Google form, Jennifer?
It is. It's
Was that
actually-
Microsoft? It looked like a Microsoft one.
Sorry.
Microsoft.
It's Microsoft.
That's
Microsoft.
impressive. And it
Yeah.
gives you it automatically tabulates those tables for you and those results.
It does all that pretty stuff. I didn't do a thing except for write the initial questions and send it out to people. And you have a link. You can just give a link to that actual form and people fill it out. And it automatically gets recorded. It's great.
Is it user friendly for people to fill out?
Mm.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering if we wouldn't have much response from people, but if it's super easy and user friendly, you actually would.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can show you, again, I can show you what the actual form looks like that the folks get when they click on the link. So, you just fill out the little, put the little star in there, just hit the bubble. And then at the end, you can write something in if you have an additional thought for whatever that was. And, boom, you do that in like a minute. And then here are your responses. Right. So it's all in the same form.
No.
Cool. It is
Very
Microsoft,
cool.
right? Sarah, it's Microsoft, not Google.
Do y'all just want to tell Sarah now some of the things that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, and are we interested in 2024 candidates only, or 2023, 2022? Like some candidates this year are still candidates, so they may not know if they know all the things yet. Are we thinking big picture, or are we looking more municipal like we just had 2023?
I would
Like
say
how
that
wide do we want to cast the net?
the wider you cast it, the more accurate your answer, your total picture is going to be. So
Mhm.
it's sort of about time, time and effort that you're willing to spend.
Mhm.
If you want to search all those spreadsheets of emails from earlier candidates as well.
Well, that part's pretty easy. That's just getting the, I mean, the spreadsheets are all there. I can get that, all
Yep.
of them pretty easy. So yeah, what kind of questions do we think? So I jotted down, costs. So, filing fee costs, I guess that could be like a ranking, too high, good, too
Yeah.
low, some scale.
Information that was shared or something like that.
Um, about running for office,
Yeah.
campaign finance. Um,
Yeah, you could add in, reporting requirements. Are
yeah.
they too onerous? Whatever. I mean, I think most of those are people want to know what, where your finances come from. That seems like a open government
Mhm.
kind of good idea, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't think over what, about 6 to 10 questions, short
Mhm. Oh,
questions.
yeah. And I
Should
would
we
probably
do
put
the,
a question in there about where the person filed for office, because they would get different information if they filed with their county versus if they filed with the state. Every county, while we all have to do the same things, we probably all have a different spiel when a candidate comes in. And then the state would be number 101, and they might do things a little bit different also.
and you also want to make sure that all your respondents are not in Wake and Mecklenburg.
Mm-mm.
So it'd be nice to know what the scatter graph
Yeah.
is where folks.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
Would, if anybody has any suggestions, we can just email them to Sarah in the next couple of days.
Mhm.
And once you get your thoughts together, Sarah, if you just want to let us, shoot everybody
Yeah,
an email.
I can jot down, or I can create questions based on the notes that I just made, and I can just email them out. And if anybody has feedback or a better way to word a question to get a better answer, because I don't do surveys for a living. So, I don't want to ask a question in a leading way, like, oh, how awesome was your Board of Elections when you went in to file,
Especially Brunswick County.
Yeah, like, I know we were the best, but.
Well, appreciate you taking that on. So we've got
Yeah.
that taken care of. I think if we get the survey, that'll help us with some of the other information that we're trying to gather too.
It'll certainly be a good bellwether for what candidates think needs to
Mhm.
be changed. Is it a good process for them? And we'll get Caroline's friend, the unaffiliated person, to answer that.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
we
Scott, if
could,
you need any help, I'll chime in. I mean, when I saw how easy the results would come, I was gonna say I would do the back end, but if you need any help or just somebody to bounce off ideas, I'm happy to work with you.
Awesome, thank you. I will take you up on that.
Yeah, sure.
okay, well, I guess we've handled all of that. Topics to include in our final report are going to be based off of our survey too. Then we have down here, is there anybody that the committee wants to hear from? Any suggestions or?
I'm curious, Sarah, is there anybody that might be a good fit for particularly the subject matter around filings, reporting and things like that, that might be able to provide some more information just about forward looking, how that's developing? Is
Yeah,
there a
so
way that we
the
can ease
State Board of
burden?
Elections has a training duo that train candidates on campaign finance requirements. I mean, if we
Okay.
wanted to, kind of drill down on that, they might be able to provide some information on that. And so that is a course that all candidate treasurers are required to take. So everybody's getting the same message statewide. So something like that.
I think that could make sense. I mean, as far
Yeah.
as just as the things that we're looking at filing, I
Mhm.
don't know if you're going to see a ton of
Yeah.
change there. I mean, we could ask on the survey, is it too much? Is it, is it the right price? Should it be more or whatever? And you'll get varying response. I mean, nobody's going to say that it should be less.
Yeah.
Or no one's going to say it should be more, I would think.
No.
Excuse me.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, what I'm particularly interested about is just that the filing and reporting process, and just to see what the experience is there, and if there's a way that you can do it better, I guess. But I'm sure that's something that they're already working with regularly, but I think there's an education aspect of it as well that we
Yeah,
can
I definitely think
potentially
there's probably
bundle
room for
together.
improvement there too.
Yeah.
We hear all the time, candidates go through training and they still can't quite figure out how to report a $50 expenditure at Costco,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Who would we contact to get that done, Sarah? Do you think?
so I mean, if you give me an idea of like how long you want somebody to spend talking about it and like narrow down, is it just about what they teach all of the candidates about the campaign finance piece and the training in that regard? I can touch base with the director of campaign finance up there at the state.
I don't think we need to go through. I know they used to show the forms and
Yeah, no.
fill out all the
Yeah,
forms.
that's
We
what I'm
don't
saying. Like, I would probably have to say,
just
can you give us
they-
15 minutes of your time and just talk about what you all do to teach candidates about, campaign finance requirements? I don't know.
and also how they audit the campaign finance reports and what happens when they audit and seems like to me in the past, people who have been audited, nothing really happens to them. So why go through having to fill out all this paperwork if you're not doing it correctly and nothing's happening? So if you'll see about that, we're just giving you all sorts of jobs today,
So
Sarah.
would this be like at our next meeting?
I would
Is
think
that-
so.
Okay, and can somebody tell me when our next meeting is? I have no idea. It's probably on my calendar, but
It'll be shortly before the final report is due.
oh, perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be in
June
May.
20, well, no, we have May 27th.
Oh, no, we got May.
and
We
May
got May.
27th.
Yeah, May
Yeah, okay.
27th and then
So about a
June.
month before the final report is
Okay.
due.
And then I just thought about something when it comes to the survey, just to backtrack a little bit. It might not be best for me to be the one sending that survey out to candidates as someone who facilitates their candidacy. They might think, oh, Brunswick County Board of Elections, why
Right.
are they reaching out to me? Or I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Well, you wouldn't want to send it from your official email anyway.
Yeah,
But no, I think that's probably right.
yeah.
I mean, do we have anything as far as an official North Carolina network for fair, safe, and secure elections account that it could come from?
We do.
Like
We've-
I could build the survey and share it with somebody, or I mean, I could probably even still be the owner of it on my Microsoft at the office, but it just might be best if that email's not coming from me. I just, especially with the kind of questions we're asking about your experience as a candidate.
That's right. What do you think of the Board of Elections?
Yeah. How did you get treated?
Yeah, Sarah, I don't mind sending it. I mean,
Okay.
I don't mind sending it. And I
Okay.
mean, I was already kind of looking at how Jennifer set up that, and it does look super easy to set up. So
Yeah.
I could set it up too, if you
Okay.
wanted to help me with the questions. I feel like you're
Yeah.
good with the
Okay.
questions. and I will.
I'll send you an email. Maybe you and I can just schedule a time to chat and like
Sounds
later
good.
this week.
Yeah, and you probably know how to get all the candidates. I don't know how to get their emails.
Yeah, I can pull
Andy's
those
referring to
reports.
something that I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, no, I mean, I
Definitely.
just don't know where to go to get them. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
you can also, Caroline, you can set it up so that if they want to reply, it goes to the North Carolina network. If they have questions or reply, you can put that in. It depends on if you're using a mail service like Constant Contact or MailChimp. I don't know how you were planning to send out 5,000 emails.
Good
Well,
point.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if I use MailChimp, and you have to, there's a way to import an Excel spreadsheet, but you can put whoever you want the reply to go to. And so you could put it to go to the North Carolina network. I mean, Rachel can give you that email. But I don't know if you have MailChimp or Constant
Used
Contact.
MailChimp, but it's been like 5 years since I've done it. So I don't have it at home right now. So that, yeah, I wasn't thinking about sending out 5,000 emails.
Rachel,
Yeah.
can you help out here?
To be completely honest, I'm not sure that I have the capacity to do that, but I mean, I can try to brainstorm a way for us to easily do it. I know if we use Constant Contact or MailChimp, all of those platforms are going to cost. And I know MailChimp specifically costs by the number that you send it out to. I don't know the billing on Constant Contact, but I can look into it and see the easiest way to send it out. Yeah, I would just have to look into that.
I mean, you can always, you can do groupings of, I don't know how much Gmail lets you send. You can always do groupings and just send it, but that's going to take some time.
I know Outlook has the cap.
Gmail lets you know, I know just from Gmail lets you send, I think it's up to 100.
Yeah, Outlook has a cap. I believe it's like 500, which is better than Gmail, but it does have a cap as well.
500 would be, yeah, I mean, 10 emails. Anyway, love technology.
Jennifer, I know this system well because of some activism I'm doing here in Burke County. And so, yes, I know how to send like 10 emails out to 99 people. It makes me crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Rachel, just see what you can find out if we can figure out. I wasn't thinking about having to do MailChimp.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, y'all will get together and decide the questions and kind of let us know what you're thinking about, if we have any suggestions. And then we'll see if someone from the state board will do maybe a 15 to 20-minute presentation about candidate filing, and just the basics of what a candidate goes through and what they have to do.
Be interesting to ask the state if they do this training like in person on Zoom every time. Why could they not do, the way they do online courses and have it broken into segments that are pre-recorded, and then you have to prove that you've listened to them. I mean, if they wanted to, I don't know.
You don't have to do it by Zoom. They have it. It's pre-recorded. You can do it anytime you want to do it.
Oh, perfect. So they already have it that way.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, the next thing is writing I guess that'll be for our June meeting. Do y'all want to wait till after we get the survey back, or go ahead and see who's going to write up what now, or how do you want to handle that?
Public input.
I've already said Andy will do us, I know, the redistricting, right?
I'm
Andy?
assuming that there will be a couple of us in each section, or, I mean, I'm happy to do it, which is, but you know, if I do it, then it's basically be, hey, just do what I said in the report, which
Yeah.
might not be that entertaining. And I know we're as I think we're a little lighter today than we had been in the past as far as folks that
Yeah.
are here. I don't know if they're you know, we're going to get more folks in May, but I mean, I'll be happy to work on a couple of sections with somebody, but we might want to, if we can, have a couple of people per section if we're going to do it that way.
Mhm.
And then report it back into the group, and then the group would do like a
Mhm.
final approval.
Yeah, and you may end up, since your drafts may not be ready in time, you may end up voting on the drafts by email. You know what I mean? In terms of everybody agreeing, this is what we want to say. Because you may not have time to have that actually in a face-to-face meeting and go through all the points.
Mhm.
I've got 9 people on the committee.
Mhm.
So that's a great idea. We'll just kind of wait and see how many more people show up at the May meeting. Tell
Or
them if
I
they,
mean, we
Kitty-
could also assume that, you know, they just couldn't make it today, but they still want to participate. If, you know, like
Right.
maybe send an email out to the group and see if, you know, who would like to help out with which sections.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'd be happy to work on, you know, 1 or 2 of these things, but, you know, I don't want to bogart anything here.
So Andy, are we saying, or Kitty, that the topics to be included in the final report are those 4 bullets? Is that right?
well, I think we ought to also include unaffiliated candidates up there. I think that's to me, one of the main issues is the unaffiliated candidate voters that we have in the state of North Carolina, and how hard it is to get your name on the ballot.
I definitely agree. So those 5 topics, is that kind of what we're thinking in the report?
Y'all jump in there and tell me.
And
This
Andy's
is-
point's a good one. You can send it out in an email with the 5 topics and see if anybody who's not here might have one to add.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any other things that they think definitely needs to be included? Okay, y'all speak up.
I think that's a
Sometimes,
good list. I liked what Jennifer said earlier, you know, keep it short and direct and easy to understand. And, you know, and, you know, we could find that some of those particular topics were like, well, this is good. No recommendations. We think we're doing this, you know, this part right.
Mhm.
except for the unaffiliated candidates, right, Caroline?
Not right. Andy has what the committee he wants to be on. I know the one I want to be on. Yes.
I want to be on unaffiliated too.
And you
Yeah.
know, sometimes storytelling is a good illustration of the point you're trying to make. So
And then it's got down here what public input to include in our final report. The illustration you just said would be great public input.
and the survey.
Right. But I definitely think when you think of the unaffiliated voter,
Mhm.
the story that was told was wonderful.
I think we also,
So
we have four polls that are going, the Meredith poll is back, and I'll send that around. But there are three other universities doing polling, and we filtered some of the questions from each of the committees into all those polls. So we probably, one of them is going to have something about redistricting. So when we find that one, when that one comes back, we can also include that in the public input. Michael
Are they-
Bitzer's been working with the
Pardon,
different.
I'm sorry. What'd you say, Jennifer?
Michael Bitzer has been working with the different universities, and they've been really gracious and giving us like 4 questions on each of, but different universities included different 4 questions. So I don't know which one had the redistricting question,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll let you know.
Does anybody have anything else? Any questions or comments?
If we do have the experts come in, someone else to speak, is there any way that if something else jumps out at us that we might be able to still have that included, or is it too late depending on how everything's scheduled?
Oh, no, because we're hoping to have them at the next meeting.
Okay.
but-
Well, I would certainly like to leave the door open just in case it shakes something loose in our heads.
Yeah, and here's the other piece of this. So June 30th, we're going to have the July 15th in-person meeting at Catawba College where each committee gives its brief report on its findings, draft findings. There absolutely might be things that come up between July 15th and November, right? So we are not finalizing the report. What we anticipate between August and November and December is that the steering committee is going to be looking through the drafts, and we may be in contact with committees individually to refine, to update, see if anything is to be added. And that's going to be a process as well. So July 15th is not the be all and end all, but you don't have to meet as often after that. We'll let, the steering committee will let committees know if we need to, have a meeting to go over things.
I know I'm thinking about some of the new state laws that have been passed, especially the one about the makeup of the state board of election as well as the county board. I know it's both of them are in the courts right now, but a lot of these bills that the legislature passes, they don't realize the repercussion of it. To me, everybody needs to be more aware of, especially the people making the laws, need to be more aware of what goes on in the election board office. They have no earthly idea what goes on, but yet they're making rules and regulations that affect how the elections are conducted. And it's when you put politics in it. The lady that I was telling y'all from Kansas, she was talking about when you put partisanship in conducting elections and how they're run is when you start running into problems. I think that's one thing all of the committees need to think about is making sure that it's not partisan one bit, because that's when you start having issues and problems. Does anybody else have any comments?
Well, and that could be, in your opening paragraph, an overall sentiment or statement, something like that.
Anybody else have anything else? If not, we're gonna end 10 minutes early. Rachel, do you have anything?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Sarah, if you'll send me an email, we'll kind of get those questions
Will
together.
do. Will
Hopefully
do.
Rachel will come up with some miracles. I don't have to get back on MailChimp again. God, I used to do it regularly. Anyway.
All right, well, that's all I've got for today.
All right. Thanks, Kitty.
Thanks
Jennifer.
y'all very
Bye, everybody.
much. Have a
Everybody.
Thank you.